welcome back to the Taboo podcast on election day. and
Hope you went out and voted. Lord
uh,
knows we could use it right now.
don't know,
Well, Lord knows you could use it right now. Whatever Lord you choose to follow.
or
Camera.
etc. So
Or none at all.
uh, today I wanted to talk about some of the red tape involving Native Americans not being able to vote. And then later on, we have Dana Cedeno from the Kisses for EB organization that's going to talk to us about that. So um, it was actually something you posted on social media that grabbed my attention on the whole Native Americans not being able to vote thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, they decided they changed it so that you had to have a physical residential address. And a lot of natives on the reservation have a PO box because I mean they live so far out there. I mean my ex's grandmother is a good example out in New Mexico. She lives on the reservation, and it's like 30 miles to the nearest town. No mailbox there. I mean, heck, there's barely power and water.
and
But I mean,
even at that, and like because they live a different style of life, a lot of Native Americans are born on the reservation, and I didn't know this until I was doing a little bit more homework on it. But a lot of them don't even have birth certificates, and getting a birth certificate later in life is very difficult. So in that regard, like they don't have social security cards, and in that regard, getting an ID to vote is damn near impossible. Um, which like I kind of came up with an idea, but I'm no politician, and I'm not sure like how the ramifications or the details. I would have to go into it, but I was thinking if we did genetics testing, because that would also keep from voter fraud, but a genetic test would prove if they were Native American and therefore be able to use that to get their voters registration in this country. And then also providing setting up poll booths and reservations to be able to get their votes, because a lot of my research was turning out that even doing mail-in ballots for those of them who do have IDs and can register, most of their mail, like I think it was a reference to like West Virginia. A lot of the reservations are about the size of West Virginia, if not bigger. And West Virginia has like 765 uh, places, like mail places, but on reservations, it's like in the double digits between like average of 45 to like 75 places that they can do mail, and those places aren't even open on a daily basis.
yeah. I mean, a lot of it, in part, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, is due in part to um, a lot of the government on the local level on the reservation is entirely enclosed within the tribe. So I mean, the tribal leaders are still the government. So I mean, it is still up to them. And like I've heard a lot of kind of like shady stuff from my boss concerning tribal leaders and how they decide to run the tribe and the reservation, for lack of better terms. I mean, it's just as much a den of corruption as the U.S. government is,
Do you
or
think
even at the state and local level.
do you think those leaders are actively making it hard for tribal members to vote? Is that what you're trying to say?
They may not be actively making it harder, but I mean, they could be doing more for certain. I mean, I'm not fully educated in the matters, but I mean, well, I mean, everybody's got a chance to do better, whether it's for themselves, if they're in local government or higher up, they've got a chance to do things better. But
Or at
power
least,
corrupts and interests lie elsewhere.
no doubt, or even if there could be like, I really don't know like the politics or the particulars too well. I've got like a week of research on my hand, which isn't very much for an issue that dates back. to the start of our country. I don't think I'd have
Hmm.
enough words to span some of the complications or frustrations, but like educating the leaders or giving them power to at least provide or make it possible for them to have birth certificates and IDs, because
Yeah.
to me that blew me away that a lot of those people go without social security cards and birth certificates. Like we can't do anything without those things. Like
Yeah, but I mean that I mean they are still living very traditionally, true for some of them, anyways. And it's a very secluded area. And again, I'm not very well versed in it at all. I mean, I know a couple things here and there, but I mean, minimum at best.
or
I mean,
there
they
has
wouldn't
to
have it any
be
other way.
some way though for them to have a say in American politics. I mean, if anyone deserves it out of any minority, I believe we really owe one.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'll fully back you up on that. Definitely agree. I mean, we took the country from them. The least that we could do is make it easier for them to say how it goes.
I wonder, like, I probably should have, I just thought of it now that I should have probably looked more into it before this episode, but hey, that's for, off the top of my head thinking. Um, how, didn't Oklahoma, wasn't it Oklahoma that just got the, the tribe or tribes out there just got rights to a ton of reservation land?
I'm not sure. I might have come across it, but I, I don't know anything off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know more of the details of how that came about to be because I just, it breaks my heart looking at history and then seeing like we did commit genocide, like, and then to turn around and realize that it's the year 2020 and Native Americans are still struggling to have a right to say, have a say in our country. Like, it's just, it blows my fucking mind, bro.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but Supreme Court on July 9th, this is when it was published, ruled that much of eastern Oklahoma falls within an Indian reservation between Chickasaw, Choctaw, Muskogee, Cherokee, and Seminole nations.
I forgot you had that handy second screen, bro.
Super useful. But I mean, yeah, and they're saying that it could really alter the future of criminal justice in Oklahoma. I mean, because yeah, I mean, laws on the reservation are drastically different, drastically rather, um, than what it is in a typical U.S. county.
Maybe this will be the precedent for rights for other reservations across the country.
I mean, one
Hopefully.
would only hope. Yeah,
I mean, a Supreme Court decision has a lot more power than a local one.
yeah, this is true. But again, I mean, a lot of it does fall onto the tribal leaders of specific tribal reservations to dictate, I mean, how certain things go. So I mean, really, only the future will tell. And like as of right now, a bunch of stuff is just coming to a complete standstill. And reservations are some of the hardest hit counties rather, in the United States. Because of like lack of access to testing and being able to get masks, such like that, and heck, even lack of access to information. On that note, I recently came across information saying that Elon Musk's internet company Starlink recently opened up the beta test, and I believe Washington State for the reservation for one of the tribes out there for free. I mean,
Damn.
it's free beta testing, which is cool, but it's giving these families, these people, access to information like their entire family has never had before. I mean, generation upon generation. Their kids can actually attend school. When they would be driven or a bus would drive for an hour and a half out of the way to get them to school. now they can log on, get online, do her school classes and stuff. I mean, they can get their information,
That's fucking amazing.
watch their stuff. Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. It's huge. I
I
mean,
think
and not just for those out in the middle of nowhere, the tribes, the people who decide to live off the grid and all that. It's that could lead towards more affordable broadband internet for the rest of the populace, which is becoming more and more a necessity in this day and age.
I think it's important for people who, not just Native Americans, but people who live below poverty level, students who can't afford the luxury of internet, which still happens today. And I think a lot of people just don't realize that because it's outside of their scope of perspective. And I'm not saying like we should be altruistic, but I'm saying you can't like it's the catch 22 of being homeless. You don't have an address, you don't have a phone. How do you go and get a job? Like, and it's that catch 22 for students who live below poverty level or live on reservations or were born into some kind of weird social circumstance. Like, making it available, if you're going to make a requirement, it needs to be fairly available.
Everyone, or as many people as possible, even.
But
Um,
on that note, we do have an interview to do. So how do you feel about jumping over to that?
yeah, yeah. Let's knock it out. Let's say hi.
All right.
All
So
set.
hi, Aunt Dana. Welcome to my podcast. For everyone watching, this is Dana Cedeno. She's part of the founders of a group called Kisses for EB that helps kids with epiderma bullosis. Um, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm enjoying it so far.
um,
Cool.
so I wanted to start with I know a lot of the answers to these questions because we're related. Um, but I wanted to start with just how you became aware of epiderma bullosis. Um, and how this all
Okay.
got started. Sorry.
Okay. About 5.5 years ago, my grandson was born missing 60% of the skin and muscle tone on his legs. And I got the call. I was at work, and I got the call from my youngest daughter going, "Hey, you got to get to the hospital." Why? She's like, "Something's wrong with the baby." And I'm going, "Okay, what is it?" And she's like, "He has no skin." Well, I never heard of such a thing. So I, on my way to the hospital, I was making phone calls to other people. Hey, thoughts and prayers are appreciated, and don't know what's going on, but something's wrong with the baby. So they did some testings and they found out he had epidermolysis bullosa, which is the worst disease you have never heard of. It's they're lacking the protein in their skin layers to keep their layers together, so any sort of friction causes blisters and wounds, and it feels like a third-degree burn all over their body. So that was our introduction to EB. We shortened it down to EB, and we had a lot of people coming out saying, "Hey, we want to do a fundraiser. We want to do this," and we just realized there was not the awareness out there for this disease. So a number of us got together, we started brainstorming, and we created the nonprofit Kisses for EB. We bring awareness to the community, but we also bring assistance to those families that have it.
So I know
Okay.
that Ashley and George, Kiba's parents, just happened. He happened to be born into a really good family. But can you explain some of the care that might be difficult for your average parent that didn't have medical training or medical education.
The most difficult was keeping their skin on their body, as in eliminating as much friction on them as possible. So even if it was someone going by and rubbing their head or someone rubbing their arm, that could cause blisters and wounds. Picking them up, changing a diaper, putting their clothes on, all that causes friction. And then that can cause blisters and wounds, and they have to pop the blisters. Just like if you get a blister on your foot, you don't want it to get real large, so you pop it. So they need to make sure that they pop the blisters, and sometimes they get infected, and then you have to really make sure you cleanse them. Yeah.
Some pretty scary stuff. So you've been holding fundraisers, raising awareness for EB, right?
Yes.
Have I mean with COVID going on and everything, I mean, have you been able to do anything within the last 10 months or so?
We our 5K, 10K, we had to cancel. That was in April. And we did do our motorcycle ride. We probably had about 30 bikes. We probably had about 50 people all together. And then we just got done doing a gun raffle.
Okay, that's pretty good. I mean, I've certainly never heard of it until Vix brought it up to me. I mean, would you say you've come across many people who've already known of it?
No. When I would mention it to people just in passing or at any of our events, and we do set up tables at other vendor events. So a couple weeks ago, there was an event at a winery. So we were able to set up a table there and just bring awareness. We have pamphlets, we have those bracelets that have Kisses for EB on them, and I would say probably about a handful of people out of the 5 years that we have been doing this that have said that they've ever heard of it.
Wow.
Now there's 5 in Lancaster County that have it. Kiba, I would classify as the worst. Kiba is our grandson, and there's 4. Just like with cancer, you have different types of cancer. The same with EB, you have different types of EB. So you have your 4 main types, and then you have your subtypes. Well, Kiba has simplex, and then he has 2 types that they've never seen before.
Really?
Yeah. They can get it on the inside of their body, and they can get it to where their digits, their toes, and their fingers would actually fuse together. Kiba does not have that type. Kiba has his body produces some protein, but there's others that they don't produce any protein, and their skin is extremely fragile. I mean, any sort of little bump or friction can really just rip up their skin. And what is your largest organ? Your largest organ is your skin.
Skin, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
so just like what you're doing there, rubbing your face, if
Yeah.
Kiba would do that, he'd get blisters right there.
God, that sounds like a nightmare. It sounds like somewhat similar to, gosh, what is that other one? It starts with hemo something.
Hemophiliac?
I'm not remembering. But,
are you thinking of a hemophiliac?
I might be misremembering the proper word. I know hemophiliac, typically like thin blood or something, but I think I'm thinking of something else.
Thinking of eczema?
No.
Okay.
Hemophiliacs where if like you poked a hole, like accidentally pricked somebody with hemophiliac, they would not stop bleeding.
Yeah, like really thin blood, and blood has difficulty clotting, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are there specific families that the Kisses for EB helps? I know there. I remember you guys talking about there was a family that was like really far from hospitals and not able to get a lot of medical aid to deal with buying like bandages and things like that. How often is that common?
It's worldwide, and there is a boy in Cuba that Ashley, my daughter Ashley, and her father went to go visit and took 100 pounds of medicine, bandages, protein drinks, and those sort of things. He's never seen an EB doctor, so they're just kind of doing things, whatever they learn off the internet. Ashley met with a lady from Africa and showed her how to pop the blisters in the mouth. And she did a video on that too. And so that parents of newborns, it's very traumatic because you're expecting a healthy baby and all of a sudden he was born with no skin. And so it's our normal, has never been the same. But we created a new normal, and we don't bubble Kiba. He's gone camping. He plays outside. He has gone on a cruise. He goes to the beach. We just have to take that extra precaution step. We have to know that not everybody can handle him. There's only certain people that can lift him up. There's only certain people that get him dressed. And now that he can talk, he can say, hey, that hurts, or don't do that, or, and tell people, no, don't touch me. Because you'll be surprised at how many people just want to go out and start touching. It's like, keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah, because the last thing you want to do is, cause further pain.
Right. So Kiba does not walk very well. He mainly walks on his knees, but our philosophy is that we want him to enjoy as much life as possible without just trying to be a normal kid. So he's very independent, extremely independent. He'll pull a chair over to the counter, climb on top of the counter to get a cup, get water, and just do the whole reverse thing to put everything away. So he's extremely independent.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I mean, he's not letting it stop him, that's for sure.
No, not at all. And extremely.
Sorry.
He's extremely smart. He's very, very smart.
Good.
He's also one of the happiest little kids I've ever seen. Like, Kiba is always laughing, always smiling. He'll yell at you. He'll throw things at you if you ignore him.
Yeah, and he's a typical 5-year-old. He can have his attitude, and he knows what he wants, and he's very articulate. He can speak very well.
So
and he loves bonfires. So we try and encourage him to do more. But we know there'll always be some sort of a limit, but we want to push those boundaries as far as we can.
Yeah.
So I know Kiba in particular does go to a lot of specialists. What is a lot of that intensive care? And I know he's also immune deficient because of his disease. If you would explain a little bit more for that for our viewers.
He goes to Cincinnati Children's Hospital once a year, and there they have what they call clinicals. He gets tested. He gets a well child check. His hearing, his eyes, he's going to be doing a swallow test this time. To clean his teeth, they actually have to put him under.
Oh.
And so they'll check his liver, they'll check his kidneys, they'll check his heart, just to make sure that those are functioning properly as well. He's on so many different medications that they want to make sure that those medications aren't destroying his other organs.
Mm-hmm. Because everything's got a side effect.
Exactly. Right. So he goes out there once a year. He's normally out there for about 3 days, and then if he has to schedule any other doctor visits, he'll do that. They'll do that throughout the year. And then they do stay at the Ronald McDonald House, and if that is full, they have an opportunity to stay at a nearby hotel. And then they, I know the last time they paid for 1 night, and another organization paid for 2 nights.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So Ronald McDonald House is a lifesaver. So I mean, truly,
I've heard nothing but good things about them. You know, and all the help that they do for families in need.
Yes. And the food and just, you know, the facility itself is extremely nice.
Gosh, I had a good one. What other resources have you and the family found utilizing, you know, handling some of the trials and tribulations?
We have a lady here locally whose 17-year-old son passed away about 9 to 10 months before Kiba was born, and she was Ashley's advocate, navigating through the medical, teaching her how to do things, you know, showing her, you know, different ways of holding him, picking him up, putting his diaper on, all kinds of things. And so she was a huge advocate, and that's what Hershey Med Center, or Penn State Children's Hospital in Hershey, they are wonderful. But when they come across something that they never heard of before, or the nurses themselves have not seen, the nurses really need to rely on the parents who live this day in and day out on how to care for the child. For example, when Kiba's because he was missing so much skin on his legs, it was down around his ankles, and when the skin grew back, it grew where the blood would go into his foot, but the blood wasn't coming out of his foot fast enough. So his foot would swell up almost like a big old balloon. So they had to do surgery. So to cut the band there, so to release the pressure off of that vein. So they wanted to do a swab test. Well, as soon as they would do a swab test, it's going to cause blisters.
Yeah.
So they didn't realize that, you know. So the surgeon who actually did it had to call Cincinnati Children's Hospital to talk to a doctor out there to find out the best procedure for the less evasive on his little body. He was only probably about 3 months old when this was done. Yeah. And Kiba's not the worst. There are 2 more that are 2 other types that are worse than what he has.
To step back into that, and people in other countries who have children with this disease, and not just like not having the knowledge, but not being able to have that medical access. I mean, you said the family in Cuba has never been to an EB specialist or EB doctor. It kind of makes me feel like being born in the wrong country with this kind of disease could almost be a death sentence. And their life expectancy is already so short with this disease. That's
there is a girl who's, I believe, like 10 or 12 that lives in Pakistan. And what's difficult for us is we can get the supplies the cost to ship the supplies to Pakistan is astronomical. It's just crazy, you know, to be able to ship something like even if it would be a 50-pound box or something, it would just be crazy. Plus the medication that she would need, because we're not physicians, we would not be able to provide for her. We could send bandages and things. They do have an organization called Deborah, which is a worldwide organization. It's Deborah.org /USA or whatever country you would be in. And they do provide a lot of help that way.
Is that an
They
ED
provide
specific or general, like medical?
they
Yeah.
they are EB specific. Now they focus more on um, oh shoot, the name just went on my head. They focus more on one type of EB than they do the other three, but people can still request help through them, the worldwide organization. They also put on a conference here in the US every other year for parents and EB individuals. So they can meet other individuals, and then they can also learn the newest there's no cure, but the newest like pain management or wound care.
Therapies, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're running close to the end of the clock here, but before I call it a wrap, and I wanted to ask about like COVID being, you know, especially dangerous for the immune suppressant. What has it been like having a grandchild like Cuba during, you know, the plague right now?
We have always been more conscious of who comes to the house. So if you're sick, stay home. If you have a cold, stay home. If you have the fever, stay home. Um, so we just kind of upped it to where we were really not eliminating, but limiting the people that were coming to the house. He wasn't in school. He just started kindergarten this September. And you know, the first few months he didn't go anywhere. He just stayed here in the house. Thankfully, we live in the country, so during warm days and that he could still go outside and get fresh air. But you know, they wouldn't take him anywhere. And when his mom would come home from work, she would go through the basement, take a shower before she would come upstairs.
That's good. That's good. You know, I mean, anything you do to, you know, not transfer anything from outside.
Right. Yeah. And his father has two forms of cystic fibrosis. So we have Kiba with ED, and then we have his dad with cystic fibrosis. So we had to take what we were doing and just up it a couple notches.
Yeah. I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
So,
sorry. Go ahead, Axel.
oh no, I was just gonna touch on it a little bit of the four types. Which one was Kiba diagnosed with?
Kiba has simplex.
Simplex. Okay.
Yep. And we do have a website and we do have a Facebook page, and you can go on and get more information. We are looking for sponsors for a 5K, 10K that's coming up this April.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we just want to get the word out, and we want to help the individuals that have it.
Okay.
For
I do want to say I did find the link to Deborah.org. I posted it in chat, and we could probably right, Vix, we could probably post that in the description when we upload this to YouTube.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we'll have a link for Kisses for EB, for the Deborah organization, for the Facebook page for Kisses for EB, and for the any other links my aunt might share with me that would be helpful to anyone who wants to either learn more about this or donate.
And if anybody watching this video now or in the future, if you know if you know of anyone who may be willing to donate or anyone who might be willing to partner for their 5K or 10K, shoot Nix a message on here or on our YouTube page, and maybe we can see if we can get some help for them.
That'd be awesome.
But is there anything you'd like to throw out there, Anthena, before we call it a wrap on this video that we might have missed?
I just really appreciate you guys thinking of us. Like I said, we really need to get the word out, and the only way we can do that is for folks like you that are willing to give us a chance and get on your podcast.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you for teaching me a bit.
All right.
Right.
Thank you so much. And thank you everybody who's been watching. I really appreciate it. This is our 8th episode of Taboo, and I'm really couldn't do it without my guests, my co-host, and especially you guys who are watching either now or later. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna call it a wrap.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
And stream.
Awesome.